There is a town in Canada where the nearest hospital is 800 kilometers away. The population is 73. Winter darkness lasts 4 months, and the waiting list to move there has over 200 names. This is people choosing isolation deliberately, finding in loneliness what crowded cities can never provide. Most Canadians cannot imagine living somewhere truly remote. But scattered across this country are communities so isolated, they redefine what connection means. Places where you might not see a stranger for months. Where the nearest city requires a flight, not a drive. We examined population data, geographic isolation metrics, and testimonies from residents who chose these places intentionally. 10 towns where loneliness is structural, unavoidable, and exactly what certain people need. Number 10. Fogo Island, Newfoundland. Fogo Island sits off Newfoundland's northeast coast. Population 2,000 across several communities. The ferry from Farewell runs year-round, but weather cancels crossings regularly. Winter can cut the island off for days. The island is 42 kilometers long. Fishing built the economy. That industry collapsed. Then the Fogo Island Inn opened in 2013, bringing limited tourism revenue. But genuine remoteness remains. The nearest hospital is Gander, requiring ferry, then 2-hour drive. Specialists mean St. John's, a full-day journey. Winter medical emergencies require helicopter evacuation. Why people love it. Everyone knows everyone, creating genuine mutual support. A teacher from Toronto wrote that Fogo taught her the difference between loneliness and solitude. Toronto made her lonely despite millions. Fogo gives solitude without loneliness. The ocean surrounds everything. She knows her neighbors and their children by name. The challenge: young people leave. Services decline as population ages. Ferry dependence creates vulnerability. Winter storms cut power for days. Number 9. Churchill, Manitoba. Churchill sits on Hudson Bay. Population 900. No roads connect Churchill to anywhere. You arrive by train or plane. The train from Winnipeg takes 40 hours. Freight costs are astronomical. A jug of milk costs Winnipeg price plus the expense of moving it 1,000 kilometers north. Churchill is famous for polar bears. Tourists arrive in fall. Then winter brings darkness and cold, so severe vehicles must stay plugged in, or engines freeze. Why people love it. The northern lights dominate winter. A conservation worker who has lived there 12 years wrote that Churchill gives purpose impossible elsewhere. He works on polar bear research that matters globally. The isolation filters out people seeking comfort. Those who stay create bonds you cannot replicate elsewhere. The challenge: medical emergencies mean air evacuation to Winnipeg. Cost of living is punishing. Fresh produce costs multiples of southern prices. Seasonal affective disorder affects most residents. Number 8. Alert, Nunavut. Alert is Earth's northernmost permanently inhabited place. Population 50 to 70, almost entirely military and scientific personnel. 817 kilometers from the North Pole. Winter darkness lasts 4 months. Summer sun lasts 4 months. Temperature reaches above freezing perhaps 8 weeks annually. Why people love it. A researcher who spent 14 months there wrote that Alert stripped away everything superficial. The silence is absolute. You cannot hide from yourself. Some people break. Others discover strength they never knew. He returned to Ottawa unable to tolerate noise and crowds he once considered normal. The challenge: positions are assigned. Isolation is total. Psychological screening is mandatory because the environment breaks unprepared people. Number 7. Atlin, British Columbia. Atlin sits in BC's far northwest. Population 400. The town sits on Atlin Lake surrounded by mountains. The nearest city is Whitehorse, 175 kilometers away. Winter storms cut Atlin off regularly. The nearest hospital is Whitehorse. Medical emergencies mean hours of driving if roads are passable, or air evacuation if not. Why people love it. A novelist from Vancouver moved there in 2019. She wrote that Atlin gave her silence she did not know existed. No traffic. No sirens. She writes overlooking the lake with mountains filling the horizon. Her cost of living dropped. Her creative output tripled. The isolation stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like presence. The challenge: winter brings temperatures to -40. The town is small enough that you cannot avoid social conflicts. Services are minimal. Employment is almost non-existent unless you create it. Number 6. Dawson City, Yukon. Dawson sits where the Yukon and Klondike rivers meet. Population 1,400. This was the Klondike Gold Rush Center in 1898 with 40,000 people. The gold ran out. Most left. The nearest city is Whitehorse, 530 kilometers south. 7 hours in summer. Winter closes highway sections. The airport handles flights, but weather cancels them regularly. Why people love it? A bartender from Edmonton wrote that Dawson gave him community he never found in cities. Everyone contributes because everyone must. When power fails, neighbors check on each other. When shipments delay, people share what they have. He earns less. He works harder. He would never go back. The challenge: cost of living is extreme. Everything is shipped in. Fuel costs make heating expensive. Winter darkness is psychologically difficult. Number 5. Îles-de-la-Madeleine, Quebec. The Magdalen Islands sit in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Population 13,000 across several islands connected by sandbars. Accessible by ferry from PEI, 5 hours, or plane from Montreal. Winter ferry schedules reduce. Storms cancel crossings. The islands feel cut off from Quebec. Significant because most residents are Francophone Quebecers, surrounded by Anglophone maritime provinces. Why people love it? A photographer from Montreal bought a house here in 2017. The islands gave him subject matter that never repeats. Light changes constantly. Weather dominates daily life. He knows ferries might not run. That limitation forced him to slow down, to be present where he is. The challenge: healthcare requires planning. The hospital is small. Serious conditions mean mainland evacuation. Economy is seasonal. Winter is long and isolated. Number 4. Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories. Tuktoyaktuk sits on the Arctic Ocean. Population 900. Until 2017, access was by plane or winter ice road. The Inuvik-Tuktoyaktuk Highway now connects to Inuvik, 140 kilometers south. But Inuvik itself is remote. Yellowknife is nearly 1,000 kilometers away. Tuktoyaktuk remains one of Canada's most isolated communities. Why people love it? Tuktoyaktuk is predominantly Inuvialuit. A resident who left for Yellowknife and returned wrote that the South made him invisible. In Tuktoyaktuk, he has role, family, responsibilities to community and land. The isolation outsiders fear protects the culture. The challenge: cost of living is crushing. Fuel, food, housing cost multiples of southern prices. Climate change visible. Permafrost melts. Coastline erodes. The future is uncertain. Number 3. Haida Gwaii, British Columbia. Haida Gwaii is an archipelago off BC's north coast. Population 4,500. Accessible by ferry from Prince Rupert, 7 hours, or air. The Haida Nation has lived here thousands of years. The islands have old-growth rainforest rivaling anywhere for beauty and ecological significance. Why people love it? An ecologist from Vancouver Island moved for research and stayed. She wrote that Haida Gwaii taught her humility. The rainforest is ancient beyond comprehension. The Haida have maintained relationship with this land longer than her culture has existed. She is a guest. That understanding changed how she moves through the world. The challenge: healthcare is limited. Serious medical issues mean mainland evacuation. Ferry schedule controls movement. Weather is constantly wet. Jobs are scarce. Number 2. Grise Fiord, Nunavut. Grise Fiord is Canada's northernmost civilian community. Population 130. The town sits on Ellesmere Island at 77 degrees north. Winter darkness lasts 4 months. Established in 1953, when government relocated Inuit families from northern Quebec, promising better hunting. The relocation was forced. The promises were false. Why people love it? A younger resident who studied in Iqaluit and returned wrote that the South exhausted him. Noise, pollution, constant rush. In Grise Fiord, life moves with seasons and ice. That rhythm is harder, but more honest. He knows who he is here. In the South, he was lost. The challenge: everything is difficult. Cost of living is extreme. Healthcare is minimal. Isolation is total. Historical trauma of forced relocation remains. Number 1. Battle Harbor, Newfoundland. Battle Harbor is an outport off Labrador's coast. Permanent population, 0. Summer population, 10 to 15 staff maintaining the historic site. The last permanent resident left in 1966. Why number 1? Because Battle Harbor represents isolation's logical endpoint. A community too remote to sustain itself. But staff who work there every summer choose it. Why people love it? A site interpreter who has worked 14 summers wrote that Battle Harbor gives silence that rewrites what silence means. No cars, no internet, no phone, just ocean, buildings, and work. She spends months reading, maintaining, thinking. When tourists arrive by boat, she shares history. Then they leave and silence returns. She earns very little. She lives in basic quarters. She would never trade it. Those months recalibrate her entire year. Summer in Battle Harbor reminds her that peace is real, that silence has texture, that isolation can be gift rather than punishment. The challenge: this is seasonal work, not permanent residence. But it represents the purest form of chosen isolation available in Canada. Conclusion: 10 places. Alert to Battle Harbor. Each proving loneliness is not failure. For some people, isolation answers questions cities cannot solve. The quiet lets them think. The distance lets them breathe. Small population creates bonds, crowds prevent. These towns require sacrifice. Healthcare is difficult. Cost of living often extreme. Entertainment minimal. But for those who find cities exhausting, who crave silence, who want landscapes that dominate human presence, these places exist. Canada is large enough to disappear in. These 10 towns prove it. The only question is whether you are ready to find out what loneliness might teach you. Your move.